So another interesting aspect of this 22, remember 22 is encoding titanium, and titanium or titans or giants are always encoding the moon. So all these kind of stories or encodes will always be about the moon. And we know that we have a supermoon coming up. So we see a lot of this kind of being driven, and the Titanic is always associated with the supermoon, every rendition or story of it. So one thing that's interesting is there's this character out in the world called Adam 22, and a lot of biblical stories of Adam, or a lot of diagrams of Adam, show him as a giant, which is a play on the supermoon. And you see that Adam 22, the number 22, encodes Adam the giant, right? But then his wife is named Lena, and if you've seen in my previous videos, whenever you have a character named Lena or Elaine or Lena, Selena, Celine, these are all play on the same moon goddess. So tragedy always will occur. And now they're in the media for his wife sharing him with a BBC, B equals 2, 22C, right? So you have this 22 being encoded so many different ways, a lot of media stories going on right now. That's because the supermoon is on its way. And it kind of leveraging its ability or its influence to kind of cast more spells. So the story between Adam 22 is a monogamy story where his monogamy has to do with the moon, where now his wife is being shared publicly on stage. And they're already porn stars, so I don't know why this is surprising people or driving people to, focus on it. But it's really just a moon play that's kind of going on. And a lot of the biblical depictions of Adam or retellings of that story will have Adam being a giant. There's a famous story about this guy named Adam Rayner. And any giant or titan story, you're going to hear the concepts of water, rain, ice, because these are all talking about the moons. Either our moon or our moon's influence, or the moon of Saturn, Titan. So we have the story about this. We have this other story with this guy named Adam Rayner, who was a dwarf and a giant. It's a play on both. The moon became a supermoon or a titan moon. And you'll notice in a lot of giant stories there will always be a dwarf encoded. In the Game of Thrones, you have the dwarf with the giants or the titans. That same character is almost always cast in giant movies. He's in the Avengers movie. He's playing a dwarf and a giant in the Avengers movie. And he in the most recent Transformers movie, he's also casted in that as a person who is involved with giants. He's the main villain, the dwarf giant to the super giant Ultron. And then also in the X-Men movies, he's the dwarf who creates the Sentinel Giants, the Titan. Not by coincidence. Characters in the cast are chosen based off of what they represent in the sky, or how the story can be leveraged using them, because they're tools, a part of the spell casting. Then we also have a similar concept in T.I., the rapper. There's a rapper named T.I., which is a play on titanium. And then he also has a wife named Tiny. So you have the supermoon and the small moon together, and then they produce a bunch of children. One of the children's name is King Harris, because T.I.'s last name is Harris, as in the hair. And if you think this is just a coincidence about T.I., just consider he was in the Ant-Man movie for no reason. Like, why would T.I. be cast in the Ant-Man movie? It's because it's a movie encoding a titan, a giant, and T.I. is a character or a rapper or a part of the cast in Hollywood or show business that encodes the idea of titanium, the supermoon. This might sound like a stretch for a lot, but just consider in the media, whenever you see the name Adam, you should be questioning: are they trying to show you a titan with it? They have the waning Rock Johnson, which is a play on the waning moon, playing Black Adam, the Titan, and he's also a character who's responsible for the Titan games. And in that film, there's a character called the Atom, that is the Atom Smasher, that can go from a miniature character to a giant, a titan. Not by coincidence, because they're encoding these ideas. Even a lot of Adam Sandler movies or conversations play on the giant concept. He has a movie called Big Daddy. He did a remake of The Longest Yard, and that was originally a Burt Reynolds film with the 22 encoded all throughout the movie. And there's even conversations that Adam Sandler has had with the number 22. And the Tennessee Titans, there's a football player with the number 22 on it. And then one of the lead players' name is Adam, not by coincidence. These are encoding these kind of concepts. So whenever you see a mainstream media presentation with Adam in it, you should be looking for any type of Titan or giant reference to it, because they're playing that game a lot. And you see in Attack of Titans, the TV show, there's an episode 22, where the characters are standing in a trinity by the water, and that's a play on the Titanic or the Titan moon concept as well with that. But just look around. Whenever you see anything involving Titanics or giants, one common name that you should be looking for is Adams, because it's a play on Adam being a giant. And we have like Adam Levine, also similarly, Adam Levine, which is a play on the Levites, the Levi, and you see Levi, as I shown in the Titan video, that Levi is a character who's often associated with Titans or giants. It's a play on the Leviathan or the Levites in the Bible, which are a moon-based story. And you see that the Kraken is also a spinoff on that kind of story. And in a lot of Titan or giant stories, there will be characters that are referenced or pointing to the Kraken. And right before this Titanic event happened in 2023, the current one, we have a movie came out recently called The Kraken, a remake of it. And, you know, the Titanic is also a retelling or a modernized version of the Kraken, because they're all supermoon giant stories that are encoding that kind of concept. And then we have like Adam Warlock, a damn warlock from the Marvel series. And he is, his toy comes in a package design called the Titan series, because these are all encoding that. The Beast from Beauty and the Beast is a character named Adam. You see that Andre the Giant is battling a character named Adam. On the Giants, there's a character named Adam. The Addams family is an obvious moon-based family. Adam Driver from the Star Wars films, he's a tall character. And sometimes I wonder if these characters are really this tall in real life, or they're just encoding the Adam play on a giant when they talk about these characters. But he is directly associated with Snoke, Commander Snoke, which is a giant, a moon-based giant in the Star Wars series. So they're always kind of playing this giant concept with these characters. In the Adam Project, where you have Ryan Reynolds, which is a rabbit, he has a double R. And this is why he plays Deadpool. Wade Wilson, another rabbit character. And in a lot of movies that he's in is always rabbit hole, like the smart guy or the good guy. I forget, but he goes in the rabbit hole in the video games. But he has a movie called The Adam Project, where he goes back to see his younger self. So you have the Titan version of him, and then also the small version of him. So you always see this play on Adam and a giant in a lot of different forms of media. And I just wanted to point this out for you to look at it. And all of this is really encoding. These are just stories about the moon. Any giant or Titan story is really a story about the moon. So I hope that this video encouraged you to look for the name Adam to being associated with giants. And just remember, all giant stories have something to do with the moon. So the recent Titanic event happened right before the supermoon. All the language regarding it was based off of the supermoon. And then we also have the giant ship that sank in the past, and now a Dwarf, the submarine that imploded this time. And that's because they're all encoding the same thing: the supermoon, the Titan, and then also the regular size or mini moon. And you see this in the characters' names. And then one last thing I wanted to note is, if you notice, a lot of these characters will have a deformity look in their faces, where the giant or the dwarf might have a disfigurement. And I don't know what the play on that is, but it just might have to do with one of them being an imperfect version of the Titan or the giant, where you see some giants are deformed in their face a little bit, but then also some of the dwarfs are in these kind of stories where you have a Titan and a giant. It seems like this is kind of all like really a play on Noah and Adam, since they're both part of the early biblical stories. They're moon-based stories, so they're a play on the gene Isis, or the beginning of genes. So you have both of them being related to giant stories. And if you look at any recent stories that have these kind of characters in it, there's going to be a smaller and shorter character. The Transformers, there's Noah, the little tiny human, and then also the giant Unicron, the Titan. They're both extremes. And you see this kind of story in all of the stories, where the Noah's Ark stories are kind of a retelling or influence of the Titanic story and Kraken stories as well, because they're all really stories about the giant moon in the sky and its influence or power, or the reset that it causes.